Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Good, so welcome to, this is module 6, talking about the introductions to the foundations and of Buddhist culture. So this is going to be a short 10-minute session or so, just describing some of the origins of Buddhist meditation, and also about the benefits and the kind of impact it's had on the countries that it's been taken up by the regular people as well. So the imagery that we find across the countries that have taken it up says a lot about the nature of Buddhism. The original Buddha was a historical figure, was a living person who went forth and through contemplation, through meditation, managed to find complete path to peace, and a kind of knowledge about that path which was comprehensible by regular people, and he was able to teach it in such a way that many people were able to follow. Primary teachings were to prevent people from finding themselves in harm, in loss, in spiritual debt and pain and misery, and through preventing people from building up agony, from building up confusion and chaos. So the outcome of this was a form of beauty in the form of purity, and this teaching was found to be very harmless and to be very fulfilling, and is endorsed across many Southeast Asian countries. We can see it in the artwork. Typically the hands and the lotus depict the purity and the wisdom of the Buddha's teachings as well. Very elegant forms of artwork that we see, very rich as well. Often these sort of 1,000-petal lotuses represent all the different aspects of the teaching and their pure nature of awakening, which is often correlated with the inner blossoming of compassion, the heart awakening to wisdom with its multiple perfect petals opening up on a basis of morality in livelihood, in speech and in action. And this comes to perfection through contemplation, through calm, peaceful meditation, through right use of energy and the kind of energy that awakens up through meditation and through mindfulness. So in all those factors there, those 6 factors, also they need to be accompanied by the right kind of aim and the right kind of views in order for them to all come to this state of completion. How to do this was clearly taught by the Buddha in very precise detail, and that being followed by people who follow the instructions. The Buddha said, now that I've passed on the instructions, I can pass away. I don't need to be here anymore. The teachings themselves are your teacher. This teaching called the Dhamma, which also represents spiritual law, has this characteristic. So we see often the lotuses, which are typically growing quite dirty water, but rise up above it, and the petals are untouched by the water. It just rolls off them. So this characteristic of this Suddha, which means pure and clean, nature. So once inner nature is clarified through the teachings, then this kind of the dirty water of mundane existence, of the praise and the blame, of the difficult emotions and the relationships and things we find ourselves surrounded by, the pressures in life, can roll off like the water of a lotus petal. So this symbol is often shown around the countries, such as in Burma, Thailand, Tibet, Bhutan, Laos, Cambodia, Vietnam, where lotuses are cultivated. and they also open up under the sun. And this is another description that's given by to describe the Buddha, or analogy of the Buddha, metaphor of the Buddha, that he's like the sun, the effect of the sun on lotuses, that they open up. A lotus closes up during the night time and then opens up during the daytime. So hearing the teachings of the Buddha, hearing the simplicity and the wit and the wisdom of the Buddha opens up the heart. Often first thing that's taught by the Buddha is charitable giving and to avoid miserliness. So this dana leading then to teaching about Sila, which as well. So it opens and makes people more soft and receptive as well. And then they can be more prepared for hearing deeper teachings as well. So in this case we're seeing very beautiful images, but the Buddha didn't only use beautiful images like this. He also used quite strong images to awaken people to the impermanent nature. There was a goldsmith who was very addicted to beauty, and he gave him a red lotus and gave him to watch in the sun, and knowing that as it wilted and withered, he saw the impermanence of the lotus, and therefore he saw the impermanence of material things, of material skin, of material beauty, of material hair, of material teeth, of the material body. But the mind can stay with purity. So understanding this difference between the material perfection or imperfection and the possibility of mind's release. If you have an apple which is split in half, you leave it in the sun in front of you, it'll go brown. But if you keep imagining a fresh, clean apple cut in all day, it won't rot. But the material will do. By comparing the two things, we can get attracted towards attaining at least the 31 planes, higher planes, and using this understanding to gain a purer and purer mind state, rather than looking for satisfaction in material things. So all these images of perfection, and often kept in strong contrast with such images, Buddha strongly recommended people who would come believing they were perfectly enlightened and serene to go and view corpses. And they're often in India, in the burning ghats by the rivers or in the forests, their bodies would be laid out in the open. Even birds and wild animals would come and peck at the bodies. They would be abandoned and left there after all ceremonies had been done. And sometimes they were burned, sometimes they were buried. But reflecting on the impermanent nature of beauty, the impermanent nature of youth, the impermanent nature of the physical form, helps us to be reminded of our own mortality, our own impermanence, and therefore the need and the urgent need not to just fall asleep and chase pleasures, constantly satisfying the skin which surrounds the skeleton, or the temporary taste on the tongue, the temporary colours that wash through the eyes, or the temporary beautiful sounds and words and ideas that wash through the brain and the ears, and so on like this. So this was a contemplation in itself, and it's actually a meditation. One is to contemplate about the perfect characteristics of the Buddha, his teaching, and the community of the enlightened monks and nuns, but it was also to reflect on the nature of death and the nature of unbeauty. So if we're addicted and besotted and obsessed by any one person, or in a mood, or in a nighttime or so on, we can quickly change the mind's track of attention to concentrate on something unbeautiful and therefore cool passions down. And this is often what this practice was used for. To see like this impermanent nature of the body, even in a healthy, living, active, athletic body, still the sensations are just temporarily passing away, let alone all of the external trophies and environments and things and objects that we associate ourselves with, but also the sensations of the body passing away like smoke that comes and goes, like bubbles on water coming and going. In contrast, we get serenity, serene nature of the Buddha, serene nature of his tranquil teachings, the serene nature of the mind that has entered into the path of assurance. When people have fully clarified what the teaching is about and adhere to it with all their strength and with all their diligence, then the mind can attain to a state of calm. Here's just a picture of the moon, which is something like the meditation sphere, which is used to still and cool the mind. And that can be a rest from the agitative, restless nature of the mind, like this. Here, the stability of the Buddha's teachings. We're going to look also at the hands of the Buddha in a forthcoming clip. And so I'd like to pay attention also a little bit on the hands of the Buddhas that you see. And you see here one type of hand gesture, here another type of hand gesture. But also back here you see other types. Here. So there are many types of these hand gestures that you see, and they have meaning. And so we're going to take a look at that. This is a depiction of the Buddha on alms round, collecting food, where the people will offer donations of rice and food to the monks. And that was the way the Buddha, even though he was a prince whose father was offering to cook every day for 20,000 monks if he needed, he still preferred to go with the regular common people every day to accept food like that, and thereby also start the process of merit, where people, every person, can, even offering one grain of rice, can be breaking down the barriers of stinginess and selfishness and only looking after our own mini group and our own self and partner, but expanding out. And this is part of the opening up and awakening process. Please, yes.
How come your bowl isn't that big? That's a huge bowl.
It's a little bit on the big side. There are various different sizes. This is a painting done in an area, possibly up by the Thai border with China or Vietnam. And nowadays they have these quite big steel bowls. There is a limit about them, and it's quite big. Yeah. No, I do a lot of travelling as well across countries, and it's quite good to have a quite small bowl like that. It's quite lightweight. There's limits to how much.
It's so big it even has a strap.
Yeah.
Shoulder strap.
I did have one like that. When I arrived in Burma, it disappeared somewhere on the journey, so they just went, have another one. So, there you go. Again, it's not a designer life. I want this and I want that and I want this colour, and you just get what you're given most of the time.
Louis Vuitton begging bowl.
Yeah. No, so to be accepting of things as they are and easy to support. Here's a picture of the Buddha on his renunciation night. He had a wife and a child. He knew that he hadn't found enlightenment. Also, there's lots of stories about her progress through insight and meditation, and she becomes fully enlightened eventually. And she was very happy about his renunciation as well. That's the reportings of it. As was his stepmother as well. So this is a famous night when he decided that in spite of having everything that you could possibly have, or worldly luxuries, that he decided to go forth. And it was through then seeing insights into these decaying bodies that he saw in the streets, ill people that he had never seen in the palace, that he began to investigate about impermanence and aging. He knew, being in the palace he was surrounding, there was no aging, no sickness, no death, nothing. Everything was perfect, and his father kept him in this kind of luxury life like that. But he, in spite of being surrounded by all these luxuries and so on, he went into the world to expose himself to the realities, and this is what he started to confront, was this impermanent nature. Okay, so there's a little bit of background about Buddhist culture. Let's start us off with the Mod6.